What secret has been exposed again? I know that is the question going through your mind right now, but on this channel, I do not talk without backing it up with evidence. I mean concrete evidence. So stay with me to the end so you can understand what is really happening. Because what Professor Odinkalu just reviewed about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and INEC will leave you completely speechless. A lot of very serious things have been happening in this country. Insecurity everywhere, people fighting just to survive, not thinking about tomorrow. Because the number one priority right now is to survive today, to find food, to find safety, to find somewhere to lay their head. But in the middle of all this, who is enjoying the most? The same people who have been in power for over 20 years. And according to Professor Odinkalu, they are not planning to stop anytime soon. Now, Professor Chidi Odinkalu is not just anybody. He's a professor of law, a human rights expert. And when this man opens his mouth, you listen. And what he reviewed about President Tinubu, about INEC, and what is being planned for 2027 and beyond is something every Nigerian needs to hear. But before we get into it, you see that subscribe button has been looking at you since you click on this video. Click it now and turn on the bell so you always stay updated. So here's the thing, Professor Odinkalu started with something that should shake every Nigerian. He described the current presidency as being run like, and I want you to hear this clearly, an organized crime ring. Not my word, please. He pointed to something called the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, a ghost agency. It did not exist in any official budget, but somehow billions of naira were flowing through it, over 8.8 trillion naira in what he called off-book spending. Some of it linked to election financing, and the chief of staff to the president is right in the middle of it. Professor Josh Amupitan, the current INEC chairman, is a personal friend of Professor Odinkalu, and yet, even with that friendship, Odinkalu says nothing credible will come out of that 2027 under this INEC.
This is not, we cannot continue to do it is not my portion as public administration in the country. What does the evidence say? The evidence says that there is an organized crime ring in the presidency. Unquestionably the case. There is no ghost anything. As I said, if we were dealing with just pictures and even a letter from an odd, high-level entity saying, okay, travel to that place, I'd say, yes, there's a ghost agency. But you do not get an account in the central bank as a public entity as a ghost agency. You do not get to stay in the Federal Secretariat and office as a ghost agency.
For over a year.
And you surely do not get a budget code as a ghost agency. That is manifestly nonsensical. It's important, even if they want to rig elections, which I think they do, to be perfectly honest with you. But even if that's what they want to do, they even need the optics of a competition to make rigging sound.
Like you said, there are better, processes. They are better, professional, maybe because the professional, I'm sorry to say this on live TV, people like the Anenis of this world who are masters of the game of, manufacturing election results and all of that, maybe they're no longer...
But they still have people who can help them do that. They control INEC, they control the judiciary, which means, and, they've voted quite significant sums to fund the election petition system. So they control also significant, not just goodwill, but patronage. All right, political patronage, judicial patronage, they're building mansions for judges, of justice of appeal, judges of the FCT High Court and all of that. Those things are not donations, right? There's going to be payback.
Let me ask you, it will be bad if I don't ask you this. What's your take, 1 minute, on Amupitan, INEC? Professor Amupitan.
Josh was my mate in the law school.
Yeah, you said to law school.
Yeah, he was my mate in the law school. And
are you proud of him?
I thought I knew enough to say he was a man of basic decency, which I've said publicly. The stuff that's happened in the INEC under his watch, quite a good bit of very disreputable stuff has happened in the INEC under his watch. And it's sad to see. Let me put it that way. I'm trying to choose my words carefully. Yeah. But it's really sad to see. You see, terrible things can happen. But as a leader of trying to build a credible institution, you've got to be firm about the fact, about what your ideals are. It does not mean you will achieve those ideals on day one, but you have processes that continue to be refined in pursuit of those ideals. Now, INEC conducted a sham of FCT elections under Professor Amupitan. And he was talking of the sham as an election. And a credible chair of the INEC would have said there are things that happened, would have acknowledged that there were things that happened that should not have happened. And we are going to institute processes of learning and inquiry to make sure they cannot happen again. Because if you cannot control for credibility in 6 area councils of FCT, how can you do elections at the national level? So that's my worry. At the moment, I've got to say I do not have the confidence that INEC, under the current leadership, can produce anything remotely resembling a credible election. I don't think it's configured. I don't think it's configured to do so.
Can you repeat that, Chidi?
That I do not believe that INEC, under the current leadership of my brother and friend, Professor Josh Amupitan, can conduct a credible election in Nigeria in 2027. I don't. I say it with a lot of pain in my heart.
That is the ghost agency and INEC. But Odinkalu wasn't done. He also says the Nigerian judiciary is more captured right now than it was even in 1993. Naming specific judges, Justice Peter and Issa Dashan, calling their rulings manifestly corrupt. Now, here's the part that will really get you. Odinkalu says Tinubu did not go through all of this just to be a 2-term president. The plan, according to him, is 14 years and eventually a possible 3rd term through constitutional manipulation. You remember what happened in 2006 when Obasanjo tried this and Nigerians rejected it? Well, Odinkalu says the same playbook is being prepared again, quieter this time, through the court, through INEC. So he used one word for it: coronation, not election.
Last question, Chidi. 2027 general elections. The opposition parties, NDC, Peter Obi, ADC, Atiku Abubakar, SDP, Adebayo Adewale, Shewore, and all of them, I mean, Donald Duke, they all have, this determination to unseat President Tinubu. In your mind, is there any scenario where you have reflected deeply and you have come to the conclusion that this attempt to unseat President Tinubu democratically, has become much difficult, has become Achillean?
Well, first of all, we don't know who the candidates will be. As a matter of law, we don't at this time know who the candidates
because all of them have cases in court.
Not necessarily. Now, we've got this anomaly, that's what I call it, which is deliberate in the electoral calendar adopted in the 2025 Electoral Act. Or is it
2026
Electoral Act, right? And so the party primary season has ended at the end of May, right?
Yes,
correct?
And
then we have a 3-month hiatus before the
campaign starts,
before INEC.
Yeah.
Then publishes. So they've now opened the portal for upload of the candidates. And you're seeing the changes between the outcomes and the substitutions. And so there's going to be quite a good bit of litigation on these issues. So it's difficult at this time to say who the candidates will be or will not be. But because the uploads were not happening as the primary was finishing, it meant that you now have these Nigerians like to use the expression mago-mago. And when I say mago-mago, it's better than any fine English language I can use. But there's a lot of, this is mago-mago season, right? And this season of subterfuge and, all of that means that we've got to wait for a while before we know who the candidates are going to be. Obviously, if you go back to the decision of the Supreme Court in Rotimi Amaechi's case in 2008, the Supreme Court claimed that it's parties who run for office, not candidates. Although, that they've also created a lot of confusion in that jurisprudence. So, do I see a scenario in which it's possible the ruling party is stuffed out? I'm not Babalawo, I'm not a clairvoyant, and speaking honestly, it's not my place to say yes or no to that. I do recognize that President Tinubu is not President Jonathan. His infrastructure and his values his political values are different. Let me put it that way. And so the standard and the challenge of turning him over is a lot steeper, a heck of a lot steeper. And I don't think it's going to be easy by any chance for anybody trying to do that. Let me be quite clear. That infrastructure includes a lot of organized crime. Whether it's happening with his direct instruction or not is not relevant for my purpose. But there are lots of people doing lots of things there in that infrastructure of power who should not be in active circulation, civilized circulation, but they are. And that's really what it is. So that means there is a higher bar. And that is why I said, I think in the course of this conversation, I've said, and I think you're also of the same view, that the opposition are not doing half enough to create the level of worry. Because ultimately, any administration or regime that loses power, it ultimately votes itself out. And the only way you can get them to be in that position is to put them under such pressure, they begin to amass unforced political errors. At this time, I do not believe that the Tinubu dispensation is under enough political pressure to amass the kind of debt or deficit of political pressure required to put them at risk of losing power. Can that change? The time is running short. I do not think it cannot change at this time, but we've got a very narrow window in which.
So if I hear you, we may just witness a coronation next year in January.
That's quite possible. Yes. But as I said, let me repeat myself. There'll be a third time.
Wow. So
I'm quite clear about
even beyond the coronation, we should just prepare for the long haul.
Because a lot of politicians are thinking, oh, well, let's wait for 2031. Yeah. President Tinubu has not done all of this.
Just for 4 years.
Just for
additional 4
years.
Another
4 years. There will be a third term. And anybody who is doing it is not our portion on that is not reading the evidence.
I want to ask you something directly. If what Professor Odinkalu is saying is true, that the judiciary is more captured now than it was in 1993, that INEC cannot deliver a credible election, that a 14-year tenure is already being planned, what does that mean for your vote in 2027? Does your vote still matter? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I read every single one and I reply. And if this video is opening your eyes, please share it with one Nigerian who needs to hear this. So here's what Professor Odinkalu is really saying. Nigeria is not just facing an economic crisis or a security crisis. We are facing a democracy crisis, because when the institutions that are supposed to protect our votes, the courts and INEC, are described by experts as captured and unreliable, then the ordinary Nigerian has a serious problem. He wants us to prepare for the long haul, because what is coming in 2027 may not be an election, it may be a coronation. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Nigeria's democracy is at risk? And do you think a third-term agenda is real? Make sure you drop your honest thoughts below. Subscribe to Ask Dami if you have not already. And make sure you share this video with someone who needs to hear this, because on this channel, we give you the full story, no bias, no heavy grammar, just the truth. I am Dami, and I will see you in my next video.